Hello and welcome to this edition of Bayou Time. I'm your host, Keith Whiteside, licensed clinical social worker with Terrible and Home Care. Very glad you're joining us. However you may be joining us, we appreciate it very, very much. You know, it's always a good time. It always feels good as a social worker to know that we have people committed and dedicated to making a difference for our future, making a difference for the people in our community, and more importantly, for some of the young men in our community. Very excited about being able to talk with you over next several segments as we welcome in some individuals to that. Ms. Christy Howard, an LMSW, who is with Terrebonne Parish, the community social worker. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, appreciate that. Sitting next to her, Terrebonne Parish Councilman for District 1, Mr. Brian Pledger. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
All right. Sitting next to him, Dr. John Navy, which we appreciate being here. John, of course, does many, many things, but a former councilman, but somebody who's also very dedicated and committed to the community. Thanks, John. We appreciate you being here. So, Chris, let's talk a little bit about how this Boys to Men mentorship program came to be and maybe the why behind it.
Well, a part of my job is getting out to the community. So, and another component of that is also visiting the juvenile jail,
Okay.
where Joseph Harris is the director.
Right.
So when we go into the jail, we teach certain classes. And one of the classes that I was really hyper focused on was safe relationships. And with safe relationships, it's basically teaching the youth about how to recognize dangerous, toxic situations versus how a relationship should be. Because as you know, a lot of the children in the juvenile jail, they're exposed to a lot of toxic environment, stress and things. And sometimes they're not exposed to how a proper relationship should conduct itself. So in those classes, I was just noticing when we talk to the male population, they were very unaware of certain aspects of a relationship and how to conduct themselves. And I was also I was aligned with a young man who was 16 years old, who was the primary head of his household, which meant he took care of mom, grandmom, and his siblings. So in essence, he was robbed of his youth. And it just broke my heart because he never had a male figure in his life. And we all know that that's a huge component to male development, to actually see how a male is supposed to be exposed, because in my opinion, there is only so much a woman can do when it comes to raising a young man.
You know, it's really interesting that you bring that up. I will tell you, one of the things that I've seen, and this is such a small component, but it becomes a bigger issue, is that I wonder how many young boys, young men ever had the time and energy with a male figure to teach them things like driving, right? To teach them things like, what do you do in certain situations? And you bring up a really good point. So we see a number of these people who are maybe incarcerated or are in juvie, as we would say, because nobody was there to really help them learn that there's important, healthy relationships. And we're not just talking about a relationship with a partner.
Right.
We're talking about relationships with people,
Life,
with
yes.
society, with how you deal with others, how you deal with authority figures. And a strong male role model is awfully important.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've seen it even in my son, who he's my stepson. And so over time, I got to see that his grandparents were the people that kind of helped to raise him. And that needed to be sharpened a little bit as we got a little older, right? And so we see those things, huh, John, in some of the fields that we're in. Yeah. And so, gentlemen, what about you guys seeing the importance of that?
Well,
Right.
for myself, I think it's very important. It's very important. I can give you a direct example of that with my father. He raised 4 boys, he and my mom.
Right.
And it was the little things that made a difference to us growing up, from young men to become the men that we are today. But I feel that it's very, very important that young men should have positive male role models in their lives in some fashion. And this is a great way to be able to capture those young men who aren't getting that leadership that they need at that age.
And a mentorship program like this talks about the biggest gift, which is presence. Somebody being there for them to answer those questions. You know, something as simple as shaving, you know? Again, just, one of those rites of passage that if we don't have somebody to kind of help or show us or teach us to do that. Go ahead. What do you think, Brian?
Yeah, it's you say shaving.
Yeah.
It's subtleties like that. And young men, they mimic their fathers in so many ways. They take everything after them. They watch them. They watch them going to work. They watch them coming home. They watch what they do, and they pick up those things without the father even having to say anything.
Yeah. It's really interesting. My uncle, my nephew and my brother-in-law, there's a picture when Adam, the younger child, was 3, and he was sitting exactly like his dad in a picture. And I don't think he even was aware of it. But we do that. We model those kinds of behaviors. And if we don't have somebody there, then what we do is we try to gather that information from some sources that maybe, and some relationships that aren't maybe thinking about what's best for us, but maybe being manipulated some. We can all be manipulated if we're not aware of that, right?
Absolutely. There's a video going around. It's on social media of Tiger Woods and his son. His son does the club the same way he does. He celebrates the same way he does. It's almost like it's genetically in him to mimic his father's movements. And when you have young men that aren't aware of those things and you're learning it from a peer or someone on the streets, you're really not getting the accurate information that you need to. And this is like these boys don't even have the foundational skills, because some things are just completely looked over when you're learning certain things from certain people. So this is the foundational skills, and it's going to present the foundational skills that these young men need.
I love that. It's a really great point for us to take a little bit of a break and talking about. We're going to talk more specifically about the program, and I love the whole concept of boys to men. For some of us who loved and enjoyed their music, but a lot of their music was about important relationships. It was about how we work together and how we build together. Put this together, really seeing the need. And that's one of those things that I appreciate about social workers. We're really good about doing needs assessment. We're good about looking at what the need is. Very often there's a gap between seeing what the need is, figuring out how to address the need, and then doing something about it. I appreciate that y'all have done all 3 of those. So let's talk a little bit about the Boys to Men mentorship program itself. It's in its infancy right now. We are just developing the idea. So Aaron, put that flyer up. Kind of want to let people know what we're talking about. We are talking about the Boys to Men mentorship program and the importance of it. And right now we're kind of seeing who wants to be involved, right?
Absolutely. The mentorship, this is an inaugural event. We're just trying to check the gauge, the temperature of the community, to see how they'll receive the actual mentorship, because we want to see who receives it, who wants to participate, and how productive it'll be. So having this inaugural event will gauge it and see, check the temperatures per se.
I like that. So let's put the second one up, Aaron, if you don't mind. It is the Boys to Men Mentorship Program. It is going to take place on Saturday, August 19th from 12 to 3 p.m. at 800 Verrett Street right here in downtown Houma. And so what can people expect to find out at the event, Kristen?
This event will provide the foundational skills. We're going to have Dr. March from TESH. Of course, we're going to have Dr. Navy,
Right.
Councilman Pledger, just a lot of subject matter experts there to provide the accurate information, the foundational skills. And once we continue with the program, then we'll deep dive into certain components of it. However, we'll have I have been receiving a lot of feedback with young men, pillars of the community interested in becoming mentors, which is generally what the event is about. We need people to volunteer and make the commitment. This is the major component that I want to get out there. It is a commitment to do this, because we are dealing with young, vulnerable men. So they need a committed person, because I'm sure a lot of them have had people to just walk in and out of their lives. So we need you to be committed.
Yeah, and that's one of those things. You talk about the vetting process. It's one of those things that we have used as a term to make sure that our information is accurate. I love this idea to make sure that people are going to stay committed to this program. And so, John, one of those things is you're going to be able to speak a little bit. You and I got to grow up together. We got to really be able to understand what relationships are about. And now, as colleagues, we get to know what relationships are about as adults. What is it that it's going to be important for you to share on Saturday?
Well, actually, Keith, the very important thing that I've seen with these programs, mentoring programs, to be able to foster and mentor these kids, to give them some guidance for their career expectations, some things that they need to take away from them being positive. We started a Boys and Girls Club, Big Brothers Big Sister program years ago, me and District Attorney Joe Waits.
Right.
And because of sustainability financially, it lasted 5 or 6 years.
Right.
That gap has been going on for years, not being able to address those issues with these kids. being a guidance counselor, I've seen a lot of situations where these kids are very vulnerable, as Chrissy just mentioned, and they're stirring in a different direction, sometimes misguided, not having access to the information that's very important to them. So this program brings back that aspect of what we, as far as community, like that old African proverb, to take a village to raise a child.
Sure.
This is where now we're coming together collectively to do just that. I'm so glad that Councilman Pledger and Christy are doing these programs, because it really is addressing that gap that we've seen for years. You and I have talked a lot of times, Keith, about how we need to address things in our communities. As kids, we had that foundation, the sports, the park. We had those people that guided us in the right direction. That gap is not there anymore. You know, that's a big gap, and I think actually to bridge that gap is what she's trying to do. And I'm glad that you have the opportunity to do this program, Chrissy, because again, when we had those challenges, that was some serious challenges to be able to pick these programs and make sure to sustain. So hopefully this could be part of sustainability for the community coming together again collectively. We need that.
Well, and being able to make sure that you've got some very productive, very accomplished men to kind of come up as an example. Dr. Ronald March, another great example of one of those people. Don't listen to what people tell you about what you can't do.
Absolutely.
Listen to what the options for you and what you can do. Because kind of like we're thinking about and talking about, if we are able to really instill in them that you have an option, you have an opportunity by every decision that you make. And if we've got other people telling, oh man, look, school's not for you. You don't really need to go learn or learn a skill or go get educated. You can do better on the street. If they're only hearing that information, they may be limited to thinking that that's their only option. And that, I think, is what we're trying to reverse, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so I'm excited about the program. I got to tell you, my wife and I talked about Boys and Girls Club. I've got some family members in different places in the country that are very engaged in that, you know, and we've seen the value of those programs like you and
Right.
Joe did. And kind of this can really pick up where we left off. What do you think, Brian?
Yes, it's and just to also add to what Dr. Navy mentioned just now, it's really it's really taking off in the community too as well. And I think I'll share that Sheriff Tim Saulnier, he yesterday had a luncheon with local clergy, Parish President Gordon Dove, myself, Mr. Navy, also Christy, and a bunch of local leaders, Judge Tim Ellender, and they're all excited about this, and they're all going to be there. They're going to come out and they're going to support it. Not only that, but we mentioned it to Troop C,
Right.
and their administration, Captain Bazeron, he's ready to go, and it's going to be fun.
I'm just very, very thankful that we have this opportunity, saw the need, identified the need, figured out what to do, and now partnering. And Brian, you were talking about the number of people that have kind of sat down at the table and said, we're in. We want to do this. Sheriff Tim Saulnier is one of those people who's been a community leader. He has said, you know, I'm sheriff, and that's okay, but we got a lot of work to do. We want to make sure that we're taking care of our community, and he's all about fostering what we can do for the future. Toys for Tots, big programs that they do, taking care of our community, and they're involved, and they want to do this, right?
Everyone wants to participate. And like I was mentioning, Sheriff Saulnier, he has a luncheon that he provides to the local leaders, clergy as well included, local judges, state police. And just on yesterday, we had that luncheon, and so many people got excited about it, you know, just talking about when Christy was sharing, you know, what the plan was. Not only that, but outside of law enforcement and political figures that were there, we also had business owners there too as well. After everything was said and done, we're walking out, a couple of guys just came up to me and said, hey, look, I want to sponsor, I want to do this, I want to do that for you guys. We're going to be there for you. So with that being said, it's a need that everybody notices, and that's the most important thing. And thanks to Christy for all her diligence and passion that she has for this. It's just taking off, and hopefully we're going to make it great.
Well, and look, John and I talk about this a lot. There's always a really good woman behind every good man. And so when you talk about some of the limitations maybe that women may have or that females may have in being able to inspire, the inspiration of passion is often not able to be duplicated. But what it has done, it has created partnerships for people to say, you know what? we're in. They didn't need a lot of information, right?
Right.
To know that they were in. And I like the fact that we've got lots of people, and I want on this event on Saturday, and again, Aaron, put it back up because it is the Boys to Men Mentorship Program. It is the inaugural meeting. It's going to take place on Saturday, August 19th from 12 to 3 at 800 Verrett Street in Houma. And if you want more information, Christy, let's let people know how they can reach out to you to find out more.
Yes, please email me at Christie, CHRISTIE, Howard, HOWARD, at tpcg.org. That is my email. That is the best way to get in touch with me.
Right. And so if people are interested, they can do that. But this is an exciting time in our community as we come out of the distancing that was created with COVID, with the brokenness that was created with Ida. And now as we're redefining our normal. We're not getting back to normal. We're redefining our normal. This is one of the most exciting events to take place in our community because now we're kind of looking for the lost boys, if you will.
Absolutely.
Men very often get lost sometimes without enough direction and leadership and mentorship. And I think there are young men everywhere of every color looking for help.
Absolutely.
And direction. Go ahead, John.
No, Keith, that's a very important. Man, you touched my heart with that one because when I was a guidance counselor, these boys would come and talk to me in my office about certain things and trying to look for some guidance and direction, especially with their future.
Right.
And sometimes you have to pivot a little bit to say, look, sometimes these challenges, decisions you're going to make, will be very difficult for you to make.
Right.
But you need to look at what's best for you, especially in your community. And being able to be a guidance counselor and support those kids and put them on the right track was very instrumental to me in my life. Coming back on the fact that we talked about being as young men, I grew up without a father. My father died when I was 3 years old. My little brother was 3 months old. But those pillars of the community came together to support me and my family and my mother. That would guide me in the right direction. That's what we continue to need. We need those kind of people in the community to uplift these kids.
Right.
Sometimes we take the notion of tearing these children down when they have problems. Little Johnny may be having some problems in the schools or in the classroom, but what's going on with little Johnny at home? Let's embrace little Johnny that way. So I appreciate what you just said. Make those comments, Key. You touched me with that one, though.
Well, and look, you've lived it personally.
Right.
Think of the accolades and the things that you've accomplished that we all know. And I know how humble you are about it, but it's because people took the time to really help little Johnny, if you will, become Dr. John Navy, the force that he is. Right.
I'd just like to share, lastly, that it's a program that's designed to help troubled teens, youth, what have you. But also, we don't want to forget. We want to encourage all little young men to come out. Right. If you know someone, bring them out. If they have the model home with the mom and dad there, and they're doing everything's fine with them, they can come out and put their arms around the rest of the guys in the community, because that's what Terrebonne Parish is all about.
Absolutely.
It's about coming back together to be better for our future.
Absolutely.
Right? I love the idea, just the image of some of those people, because I'm one of those fortunate ones. I was one of those persons that grew up with a mom and a dad who were present, who were involved, who asked. They taught parent effectiveness training when I was little. I was a guinea pig for parent effectiveness training. It taught great communication. That's the thing.
Absolutely.
We're learning about better communication. We're learning about what mentorship is. Aaron, put it up one more time. I cannot be more thankful for you guys coming on to do this. Boys to Men Mentorship Program, Saturday, August 19th, 12 to 3, 800 Verrett Street in Houma. If you want more information, you can reach out to CHRISTIE.Howard at tpcg.org. Very glad that you're involved with that. Christy, thanks for your vision. Thanks for your passion. And I thank you for helping bring this together. Gentlemen, thank y'all for being a part of today. Thank y'all for being a part of this. And moving forward, we're all going to do it together, because I want to be a part of it as well. This is exciting. This is special. So thank y'all for making it that special for our community. All right?
Thank you, Keith.
Very good. All right, guys, and that will do it for this particular segment of Bayou Time. Don't go anywhere. A lot more local programming right here on HTV.